Okay, good afternoon. Um, Thank you for joining us today. This is our fifth installment on our Exacq webinar series for this year. We're happy to have James Goddard doing our presentation today. We have David Seaton, who is our area sales manager, regional sales manager with Exacq with us as well. I'll invite him to say a few words and introduce James. But we're excited to talk about our enterprise management solution, or EM as we affectionately call it. It is a free piece of software that runs on its own server or on one of our Exacq servers that helps us manage all of the devices connected to our ExacqVision VMS platform. So I'll let James kind of go through his presentation. We'll do an interactive demonstration as well as take some Q&A at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I will turn it over to David Seaton and ask that James share his screen.
Yep. And while James is setting that up, yeah, just like Andy said, Enterprise Manager, probably the most valuable tool that we have in our toolkit. Enterprise Manager, the ability to maximize uptime of your recorders, manage the health of your network from anywhere, increase reliability of your network with automatic failover, alerts, email notification, software maintenance, and just basically monitor the entire health of your network. So it's a great tool. As Andy said, it's a free download. It just needs to be on a non-recording device. If you have one sitting in the closet somewhere, use that. If you need a new one, we certainly got one for you. But just a great, great tool. So with that, James, I will let you tee it up and demonstrate Enterprise Manager.
Mute myself. There we go. Now I'm unmuted. All right. So let me go ahead and get started because there's a lot of stuff to cover and we like to keep this to a half hour. We find that attention spans tend to fall off after 30 minutes, mine included. I'm not immune to that. So we do try to keep these short and sweet, but also keep the info relevant and engaging. So we'll go ahead and get started here. I will kind of switch between my demo and my PowerPoint slide here. And so we'll kind of be going back and forth. But just a quick intro from me. My name is James Goddard. I am a sales engineer for Exacq Technologies. I have worked in the tech support department for Exacq. I have worked as a trainer. I've been with the company for, well, in about 11 days. I started September 1st of 2010. So I've been with the company for quite a while. So coming up on my 15-year anniversary, where I might get a few more vacation days, but I'm not actually sure what I get at 15 years, but we'll find out. But anyway, let me go ahead and talk about the Enterprise Manager. This first slide is where we can see all of the sort of a summary of all of the main features that are afforded to us by use of the Enterprise Manager. The biggest one being System Health Dashboard, being able to assess the health of your servers and your cameras easily. The ability to manage SSA statuses in one location, move licenses between servers. That's a big sort of quality of life when it comes to the ExacqVision software anyway. It makes it easier to move licenses and make more judicious use of your licensing using the Enterprise Manager. Emergency notification alerts via email or text. Ability to update NVRs from a centralized location. List of servers, cameras, licenses, and users in one place. We'll talk about camera inspection, failover, automatic backup of configurations, disperse locations, looking to simplify repetitive administrative tasks, manage users, and the ability to sync with Active Directory or LDAP. So all of these are Enterprise Manager features. You do need to be enterprise licensed, but as long as your NVRs are enterprise, you can use the Enterprise Manager. So again, value proposition of the enterprise manager. So, one of the main reasons, aside from Active Directory integration and some of the other enterprise features, we can maximize the uptime of our ExacqVision enterprise recorders. We can reduce administration maintenance time, and it is included at no charge with ExacqVision enterprise deployments. So they have to be enterprise licensed. NVRs do not need to have an active SSA. So even if you have expired enterprise servers, you can use the enterprise manager. They just have to be enterprise. That's the only requirement. They don't even have to necessarily be Exacq manufactured servers, although we can monitor a few more things with Exacq manufactured servers. You can use third-party servers with the enterprise manager as well, provided that they are enterprise licensed. So again, they don't need to be built by Exacq, but we can monitor a few more things that is not possible on commercial off-the-shelf servers. It's all web-based. So you do not need to install an additional client for the enterprise manager. You guys are probably used to the ExacqVision client software. It's a pretty lightweight piece of software. It is how you interface with the cameras, view and search, and configure everything. The enterprise manager, on the other hand, as you'll see here in a second, is all web browser based. So as long as you are running a supported web browser, which is basically anything that isn't old versions of Internet Explorer, and even then there might be some leeway, it just maybe doesn't render certain things properly. So the enterprise manager can run on, or can be viewed in just about any current web browser. So we do have the ability to pull up the ExacqVision software, EM software through a supported web browser. So if you've got Chrome, you got Firefox, you've got Edge, you've got Safari, whatever you want to use, they do support the enterprise manager interface. And again, it can be deployed on third-party servers or virtual servers. We do have a lot of customers that deploy this in their virtual environments. I would recommend a physical server unless you have an existing virtual infrastructure or vSphere cluster, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't start using virtual just for enterprise. I would recommend using a physical server, but if it's real easy for you to just spin up a new virtual deployment, then by all means, you can install the enterprise manager on that architecture. Real-time dashboard using user-defined alerts. So the enterprise manager monitors 30-some different types of events. By default, those are indicated in the pie graphs on the main page there. And any alerts that you decide, this is important, I need to be alerted to this. You can create a dashboard alert for that, or you can also create an email notification. So the dashboard itself shows the health in real time. This is an example of, this might be one of the Texas school districts. I can't remember which screenshot this is. It looks kind of like Cy-Fair ISD in Houston, but, or very similar. No, they don't have that many servers. They got closer to 200 servers. I'm not sure which customer this is actually, but as you can see, we have the ability to connect to over 500 servers. This particular customer has 13,000 cameras, and so we do have the ability to scale very high with the enterprise manager if you've got a large enterprise deployment. So real-time dashboard used for user-defining alerts. And I can show this real quick. This is where I can kind of bounce between the, now this is an actual web browser. This is obviously a much smaller deployment. This is one of the other sales engineers. This is his demo system showing 8 servers and 42 cameras. Very similar. We do have some alerts. In this case, security integration alarms, IP serial disconnected, server disconnected. So some alerts that we've set up. And we have the ability to quickly assess. In this case, we have one server that's experiencing a health warning. I can click on that, and that will automatically bring me to the server list. And so it's a quick way to navigate between your servers, see which ones maybe need attention, see which ones are working properly. It's very clearly indicated on the dashboard that you saw just a second ago. So the real-time monitoring the dashboard is a quick way to assess the overall health of your servers and your cameras. Now, speaking of alerts, in addition to alerts, you can also do rule-based notifications for not only alerts, but also email notifications. I'll show you this here in a second. But the ability to send alerts for some of the key events that people like to send alerts for: video loss. So if your camera goes offline, it's a pretty common one. Failure to record. If a server or a camera does not record anything for a certain duration, let's say we want to be notified if a camera doesn't record anything for 3 days or 5 or whatever, we can certainly do that. Hardware failures and warnings, the big one there being hard drives. A lot of times it appears the system is working because you're viewing live video just fine, but then there's a slip and fall and you go to retrieve the video and looks like the drive failed. I don't know when because I wasn't looking. And it looked like it appeared like the system was working normally. And so we set up notifications for hard drive failures. That's all encompassing. That can be a drive failing in a JBOD system. That can be a degraded RAID array. So we can set up storage hardware alarms. That's a big one. Software updates, failover monitoring and management, server licensing, like if your SSA is expiring and you want to make sure that those are up to date, content age alarms and storage alarms as well. So we get notifications saying, hey, I know you wanted to get 30 days. It looks like you're only going to get about 27. So you need to know that because for legal reasons, maybe you have to keep 30 or whatever. So lots of different alerts that we can set up in the Enterprise Manager. And to show you here, let me go back into my server list. Apologize for a little bit of congestion there. The seasons are finally changing. It is not even in the 80s today here. It's been pretty hot, although I think a lot of you are out of Texas, so that probably doesn't mean much to you. I think it's been even hotter there. Anyway, from the server page, we're going to jump down to the rules page, which is where we were just showing that in the PowerPoint. We've got a couple of existing rules that we've set up already, like storage hardware alarm. That's the one that I talked about. That's pretty common to set up when you want to be notified if your hard drives are failing. So that way you know that you have to replace them so that you're not missing footage when it turns out you actually need it. But here, if I add a rule, rules in the Enterprise Manager are if-then statements. So if this happens, then take this action. And the actions, well, before we get to the actions, let's talk about the ifs. In this case, you can do camera disconnected, or if you wanted to do storage alarm, you could do storage hardware alarm, which is now, while I will be the first to extol the good features within the Enterprise Manager. One of the things that sometimes irks me a little bit is that these are not in alphabetical order. So you can also type if you're looking for them, but I'm looking for storage hardware alarm. And that would be if the hard drives fail, we get a notification when those occur. Now, you can set up a rule that contains multiple ifs. Depending on what those are, you might want to set up different rules. In this case, this wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we're just going to do camera disconnected. And certain events, like camera disconnected, can have a duration. So you can say, all right, well, we've got cameras disconnecting. I want them to last for at least 5 minutes, though. So that means that, yes, I do want to know if my cameras go offline, but they have to be offline for at least a certain amount of time before I do anything about it. Because if we're just experiencing momentary network blips, that might not be something we care about and not something we really want to receive an email notification for. So in this case, we can say, I do want to know about a camera disconnecting, but it's got to last for at least this certain amount of time. Next drop downs are just filters. So for any group, for any server, for any camera, we can change the filters there. And then finally, this is where you select whether you would like to display an alert or send an email. If I choose to display an alert, it will show those little alerts that you saw on the dashboard. If I choose to send an email, it's going to send it to my user or any other users that I would like to do. So if I want to do Greg as well, if I want to do maybe Joe Francis, Mr. Francis from TPI, we can do that. And we can send an email either immediately or in batch. And we have the ability to throttle those emails if we're choosing to send them immediately, or change the batch frequency if we are sending them as a batch email. So for example, we can get an email once a day of all of the cameras that have disconnected for 5 minutes if we choose to batch the email. So there's a little bit of flexibility there with how you want to receive those alerts. So the rule page, again, allows you to be notified in real time if any health warnings are occurring. Like I said, if you go to the dashboard here, it's just a snapshot. This is currently what's happening. We have 8 servers, one of which is experiencing a health warning. We've got 40 cameras online, 2 of them are offline. So that's right now. We can assess the health if we're looking at the dashboard. But if we want to be notified in real time, because we're not constantly staring at our pie graphs all day, we can set up a rule to do that either via the alerts page, and then it'll display those alerts down here, or using an email notification, or both. You can actually do both. You just have to set up 2 different events or 2 different rules to be able to do both the alert and the email notification. Going back into our PowerPoint slide, I won't show a demo for just about for everything, but some things are made a little bit more clear if I switch between the PowerPoint and switch between the actual demo system. And this is one of those examples. Here, the server details is just going to show the overall details of a server. It's going to show your status, it's connected, model number, if it's an Exacq manufactured server, the versions you're running, whether or not the web service is running on there, although that's going to become less and less common because our web service no longer is needed for the mobile app to work, although there are still some third-party integrations that utilize the web service. And of course, if you want to view your cameras through a web browser, you still would need to use the web service, but it has less usefulness as of now, since our mobile app now communicates directly with the server software. A little bit of a tangent there, but just thought I'd point that out. Shows some connection details. It also shows some of the other things it shows would be saved configurations for the server. We'll talk about that here in a second. The Enterprise Manager does have the ability to save configurations or backups of systems, and those are displayed on the individual camera server page. And then there's also some hardware information, like I said, about the servers, like model number, serial number might show up here as well if you had that. And the cameras that are connected to the individual server. So show the cameras and then any events that have happened on that system as well. Now, a server has an individual page through here, but we also have individual camera pages, and I will show this here real quick in a second because it kind of goes along with the camera inspection feature. Camera details show similar to the server page, show any events that have occurred around that camera, whether it's a recording alarm or an analytic, or if the camera's gone offline. It will show all that information and show a sort of a graph of the camera details there. Also shows the status. If you are using if you're logged into the Enterprise Manager that has live viewing rights on that server, it will also show or give you the ability to show a video feed of that camera currently. This can be useful if you are using the camera inspection feature, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. The camera inspection feature allows you to set reference images for a camera and then compare those reference images alongside the live image to make sure that everything is still positioned properly, everything's focused, you know that everything is working properly. And if it's not, you can then generate a work order or a CSV file of all the cameras that need attention, along with any notes that describe what's going on with that camera, like camera's out of focus or camera is smudged, whatever it might be. And that's going to segue right into the next slide here. Camera inspection allows you to verify the cameras are being monitored. You can see the last connection status, see the last recorded video time, compare reference images and snapshots side by side, and mark cameras as good, bad, or fixed. This is just a snapshot of what that page looks like within the software here. Here, what I'll do is I will just jump back in to our demo system. Now, the camera inspection is going to be, surprise, surprise, under the camera section here. So we click on inspection, and this pulls up our cameras that are connected to our 8 servers, or in this case, let me go ahead and clear the filter here because the filter is applied currently to only show the bad cameras. So, camera inspection, if I go and I view the details for a camera, for example, this one here, this is out in Greg's front yard. If I click on this, it's going to show the reference image on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, it's going to show the video feed. So the right-hand side is what's currently happening. Left-hand side is the reference image. Now, aside from the shadows sort of, playing across the yard there, this looks correct to me. This does not look bad. It is currently marked as bad. You can see that's indicated by the red border around the edge. So maybe the technician that I deployed to fix the issue, to either readjust the camera or focus it, is now done, And what I can do now is I can say mark fixed. And so now it goes to a green border. We can add a comment if we wanted to. Any comments that you add would be shown in the exported CSV file of all the cameras that you've inspected. And once we're done, we hit next. And it will go on to the next camera. This one is uninspected, so that's why it has a yellow border. So right now this looks good, so we can set a reference image if we want to. If we want to set a new reference image, we can do that. Let's say that we prefer a sunny day on our reference image, which looks like today. So we're going to go ahead and set a new reference image, mark that as good, and continue on to the next camera. And we can continue that process. Now, if we want to mark a camera as bad, we can do that, and we can add a comment. And once you've done the inspection of your cameras, we can then come up here and filter this by only the, whoops, it's all the way at the bottom here. There are other filters you can apply, like last recorded video, last motion, name of the camera, but at the very bottom we can look at inspection status, and I only want to see the bad cameras. So I'm going to select bad, hit search, and that will show just the bad cameras in this case. And from here I can download that as a CSV file at the top of the page using the download icon. So camera inspection, again, allows you to inspect your cameras, ensure proper positioning, make sure everything is focused, and then generate work orders easily if any of them do need attention, and it shows all the information about those cameras, like what's wrong with it, assuming you gave it a descriptive comment when you inspected the camera. What's wrong with it, what camera, what server it's currently connected to, the name of the camera, so all the basic information that you need to know there. Moving on from the camera inspection, we also have the ability to do failover. There's not a whole lot to demo with failover, so I'm not really going to show anything in the software. It's also very easy to set up. But failover, what it does is if you have a mission critical server connected to your enterprise manager, the enterprise manager can detect if that server goes offline. When that happens, assuming you have a backup, the enterprise manager, in this case, is sort of acting like it's directing traffic. It'll say, this guy's offline. All right, let's take all that server's cameras, anything network attached, clients, everything. We're going to move it over to this spare server, at least temporarily, until that guy comes back. And so we have the ability to minimize downtime using the failover option. Again, this is usually used for mission critical servers. If you're okay with some downtime, you don't have to use this. But if you do plan on using the if you do plan on using the failover feature, you do need to have a spare server connected. So just remember that. You do have to have a spare server, and it is doing just that. It is sitting there in standby mode waiting for one or more protected servers to go offline. Now, a spare recorder can only take on the configuration of one server at a time. So let's say you've got 4 servers that are protected. You've got one spare recorder, server number 1 fails, the spare takes over. Now server number 2 fails before server number 1 comes back. Probably getting a little bit confusing here, but the spare is already occupied by server number 1 because it is currently still offline. Now, let's say that server number 1 failed, spare take over, server number 1 came back. Okay, spare goes back to spare mode. Now server 2 fails, then we're okay. It just, the spare recorder can only take on the tasks of one system at a time. So it's a, sort of a first come first serve basis there. Now you could have multiple spares if you anticipate, hopefully not, of multiple systems failing simultaneously. That's not great, but there's some certain installations out there that things can happen, or they're really mission critical, and so you might have multiple spare servers. Maybe you have 100 servers, and so that's just a numbers game. That's kind of like, well, you could certainly have 2 out of 100 servers fail simultaneously. That's not unheard of. But you could have multiple spares in that case. So the more servers you want to protect, the more spares you probably want to have in that case. So there's no specific ratio you have to adhere to, though. But you do have the ability to designate a spare recorder if you have a certain server that cannot move over. So again, what fails over? Cameras, record schedules, users, just about everything that's programmed in the software. And then anything network related like cameras, users that are connected via their client, those things also fail over as well. So users are brought over. Someone who doesn't know what they're looking at won't know that the server's failed. They might see their client disconnect for a little bit because it does take 30 seconds to a minute for the failover to fully take over. So they might disconnect for a little bit, but then they should come right back online. You can keep everything up to date with Enterprise Manager. So you have the ability to schedule, update NVR software. You can schedule and update backups for the NVR and camera configs. You can update web services if you need to, and you can also prompt clients to update as well. So jumping back in, I know we got about 6 minutes, assuming we're trying to adhere to the time here. Real quick on the server list, I'm not going to show I'm not going to push out server updates because it looks like all these servers are on our latest release, 25.1, which is good. But what I do recommend doing, even if you're not updating your software, is to save configurations. And this is at the top of the screen where you have the ability to schedule saved configurations, and you can do it across multiple servers simultaneously. You can schedule it for a certain time, and best of all, you're probably used to being able to back up the configs of a server manually through the regular client software, and you can certainly go that route if you want to. But if you're using Enterprise Manager, you also have the ability to routinely back up. So you just do it once a month or once every 2 weeks or whatever frequency you decide is appropriate for the amount of backups you want to save. So you do have the ability to repeat saved backups. You could do it once a month. Maybe you do it the same day every month. In this case, it selects the current day. Today is the 20th of August. And so it would then do it September 20th on the next month backup. So you do have the ability to schedule backups using the Enterprise Manager as well. A couple more slides here. License transfer. This is a pretty straightforward feature, but it's very useful. Just because it's straightforward does not mean it's not useful. It's actually very straightforward. You basically go to our licensing page within the Enterprise Manager, and you take some licenses from one server and move them over to another server. So if you've got a server that has some additional licenses and you're spinning up a new server, or you are adding cameras to an existing server and you say, well, server number 2, I need to add 5 cameras to that, but it's low on licenses. But server number 1 has 5 licenses it's not using. Let's move those over. Now, of course, we can transfer licenses for you. This just saves you an email, not having to do it, us. You can do it yourself. Now, I will say that while this is a really kind of handy feature to have and be able to, have more control over your licenses and your enterprise deployment, there are some caveats to this feature that are not caveats for the rest of the Enterprise Manager usage. Those caveats being, 1, your Enterprise Manager has to have an outbound internet connection. That's not a requirement. But we do have to be able to update the new totals in our license key database. And so if you are using this, you have to have an internet connection, outbound internet connection to exacq.com on your Enterprise Manager. And one of the first things I said about Enterprise Manager is that your systems do not need to be up to date on their SSA. This is the exception to that rule. If you would like to do the transfer, they do need to be current. The to and from server both have to be current. So they don't have to match, they just need to be current. So the SSA needs to be up to date, and the NVR, not the NVRs, the Enterprise Manager does have to have an outbound internet connection. So just be aware of that. The license transfer page, while useful, does have a couple of requirements that are not requirements for the rest of the Enterprise Manager. So again, just be aware of that. Outbound internet connection on the EM server and current SSAs on the servers. A couple more slides here before we wrap it up. Group management. You can do group management with the Enterprise Manager. It's very similar to Active Directory if you are familiar with that. You can start at, think of it as a hierarchy. So you'll have the biggest example, this example right here just shows like geographical groups. The one that I like to use are K through 12 school systems. So at the top of that is root, it's the main school district group, and then it branches off into high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, administration, whatever you want. And then from there, you can get even more specific. Cherry Tree Elementary, Northside High School, Riverside Middle School, whatever. And then you can place your NVRs into those individual groups and assign users to those groups based on what they're supposed to have access to. So it does take some setup within the Enterprise Manager, and you can use this in conjunction with Active Directory and LDAP. But once you do that, you can then use the Enterprise Manager sync feature within the exacqVision client to streamline the login process. So rather than telling a secretary at a desk, okay, add this IP address, now add this IP address, now add this IP address, and then they say to you, what's an IP address? Rather than doing that, you can instead just have them sync to a website, in this case, the Enterprise Manager, give them a username and password, and that will auto-populate the servers that they're supposed to see. So it does make the end user sign-in process much more streamlined, makes it a little bit easier. There is some back-end work that in this case, typically the IT department has to do, but once you've set that up, it makes management of all your users much easier using the Enterprise Manager there. And again, you can centrally manage roles using the Enterprise Manager, assign a user role across multiple systems simultaneously, and say, all right, this user role, secretary, whatever you want to call it, is supposed to see these cameras on this server, these cameras on this server, these cameras on this server, and so it makes it much easier to apply user roles across multiple systems simultaneously, and that will tie in to the group management feature we just talked about. Same thing with users. You can add users into the software, assign them different user levels, and then you can add those. A user can be used to access the Enterprise Manager. It can be used to access the client and the cameras, or both, or neither. Neither would be kind of weird, because what's the point of creating a user? But you could do that. But you can create a user for one, the other, or both, depending on what you need them to be able to do there. And so user management, like I said, has a lot more flexibility using the Enterprise Manager. And then the last thing I'll mention about the Enterprise Manager, and I already kind of mentioned it briefly, is the ability to use Active Directory or LDAP. If you are using Active Directory in conjunction with your group management that we just talked about, you can do group associations. So this group within Active Directory is assigned to this group, in this case maybe high schools, in Enterprise Manager, and this group within Active Directory that's assigned to high schools has this permission level. So that automatically syncs up everything within your domain login with what they're supposed to be able to do within the exacqVision client software. It makes setting up new users or adding or deleting users from Active Directory. Let's say you hire someone, they're automatically added, or the opposite, someone leaves the company or organization, whatever, they're automatically removed, and we can do the domain synchronization to make those changes and have them automatically, once they're added to a certain domain group, automatically have the right permissions within the Enterprise Manager. And this is that synchronize with EM feature that I talked about. You can synchronize with the Enterprise Manager to a URL, give them a username and password, and then they have the ability to do single sign-on and automatically see only what they're supposed to see, assuming that they have been configured properly within the Enterprise Manager software. And so, but that's the last slide that I have for the Enterprise Manager. That was kind of a very quick crash course in the enterprise software. We talked about you can install it on your own system. One of the things real quick that I did not talk about is system requirements. Let me mention those real briefly. If you're installing on your own system, I typically tell people if they are at 100 servers or less, they can probably get away with 8 gigs and an i5 processor, current gen i5 processor ideally. If you're going higher than that, go with an i7, 16 gigs of RAM. You can install this on Windows or Ubuntu Linux. The vast majority of people that install the Enterprise Manager have it running on Windows systems. It's not on Linux systems. And so, but you can certainly do it on Ubuntu Linux. We do have some customers that do it that way. But for the most part, I think the majority of our customers probably spin up either Windows virtual machines or Windows physical machines to be able to actually use the Enterprise Manager in that way. So system requirements are not crazy. Usually an SSD as well. That's pretty common now. Doesn't need a huge amount of space. 256 or 512 would be plenty in this case. But the Enterprise Manager, like I said, is available to you free of charge. If you are using enterprise licensing, that is the only requirement, and the only feature that requires a current SSA on those systems is going to be that license transfer feature that we talked about, the ability to move licenses between your servers. They have to have a current SSA, and your Enterprise Manager does have to have an outbound connection. So I know we're a few minutes over time here, what we planned. So I will, that will be it for my part of the presentation. Before we go, we'll make sure that if you guys have any questions, we can look at the chat or the...
Yeah, James, there's one question.
Yep.
about, can a failover server also be the same server that hosts the EM?
It can. I don't recommend it. So the technical answer, technically, yes, you could do that. Do I recommend doing that? No. Because there's already system resources being used by the enterprise manager, even though it does not have that crazy of response, that crazy of requirements. The enterprise manager, I would not recommend you use the EM as the failover server itself, because then we've got, I've done it just in testing, but I don't recommend doing that. So we usually do recommend a separate failover server from the enterprise manager. Let's see, where are the auto backups stored? Those are stored, I can't remember the exact file path off the top of my head, although I could probably figure that out. They are stored on the enterprise manager in the EM folder within Windows, and I believe there's a backups folder somewhere in there. I just can't remember the exact path, but they are stored on the enterprise manager itself, and we can pull them, we can download them from there. I just can't remember the exact file path. It's in the enterprise manager folder that gets created when you install the enterprise manager. I just don't remember exactly what the file path is to that, but that is where they're stored. And I can look that up for you.
Okay. Any other questions? Just to be respectful of your time, we'll kind of wrap this up. I'm going to share my screen again, just to let everyone know, on September 17th at 3 p.m., we've got another a webinar. It'll be the last one of this series. We'll be talking about various archiving solutions and options that you have, whether that be on-premise archiving, whether that be a cloud solution. We have multiple options to it with the exacqVision VMS, and we'll be discussing those on September 17th. You can sign up by scanning the QR code that's there on the screen, or you can go to tpireps.com, click on webinars, and sign up for that one if you haven't already done so. But we greatly appreciate your time. This will be recorded. We'll have this posted to our TPI Reps TV YouTube channel shortly, probably the next day or so. So should you want to share this, you can do that very easily as well. And if there's no more questions, we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
attending.
you, guys.
All righty.
Thank you.